Welcome all. I hope I'm visible and audible as well. And I'm very delighted to have everyone on board here. And thanks for the overwhelming response. With a short notice of 2 days, we have got near about 150 entries. My name is Gaurav Bhende, and I am founder and director of Proton Synergy. Introduce my team. Along with me today, I do have my two colleagues, rather three colleagues. Ninad Pandey, who is our FEA expert, who has a wide experience doing FEA analysis of near about 8 years, and he's a captain of our team. Along with him, we have Amit Lakhapati, who is a FEA analyst, and the last but not the least, Komal, who is organizing all this event. So without wasting the time and assuming that I am audible, I'll just present my screen. So what we do, I started this company having 15 years of normal experience as a stress engineer in various companies to do all these special tasks. Means I wanted to do something local failure analysis or water hammer or dynamic analysis, duct piping, even the pipe and structure stress analysis together to give the vibration solutions or flow induced vibrations, acoustic induced vibrations, remaining life assessment of any kind of say pressure vessel, the nozzle, buried pipeline analysis or cross country analysis, the inside of the heaters, inside of the exchangers, or nozzle misalignment. And just to inform you, because all of you have got this information through stress engineers group, all these aspects are related to pipe stress analysis. So a pipe stress engineer can do all these things, or perhaps even more than this. And with this ambition, we started this company, and we are glad to inform you that we have got more than 50 clients, and some of them are on your screen. Niche capability is to solve the industry problems, and therein I realized that we should have more awareness towards FEA CFD. It has been quite long, 25-30 years we have been using the software like a beam element analysis, and the stress engineer should know something more than that. So my first question is, you can definitely write in the chat box, what is the most accurate method? Analytical method, FEA method, or experimental method? So now these are the three methods by which you can solve the problem. So we have got the answer as FEA, the most one. Okay, analytical is the most. Actually, to be honest, experimental is the most, because you are actually doing the experiment and you are getting the answer for that given boundary condition with all kind of plus and minus. So if I keep the experimental aside, not involving into the things, because we all engineers first prove on paper everything is correct and then go for experiment. So if I keep aside experimental, then the analytical is most accurate. So analytical method is the one which is the most accurate one. The reason for that is it has got the exact solution, wherein FEA, the finite element analysis, or CFD, these are the numerical methods, and they are used when you want to solve a higher degree equation. So if you want to just solve 5x equals 10, then you can do analytical method, x equals 2, 10 by 5 is 2. But when you go into a little bit complex, very simple example is root of 2. Now it is very simple on calculator, but 3000 years ago there was a numerical method used to calculate it. Now if you want to go further higher with x raised to 5 plus 5x square plus 3x plus 2 equals 0, and if you want to solve it, the analytical method may take very long time, and at that time the numerical method comes into picture, and that is nothing but what FEA does. So it gives you the most nearest to the most accurate answer. But what one needs to do is that you cannot blindly believe the answers. You have to have some validation with the analytical to make sure it is accurate, and even sometimes with experimental. Now just moving ahead, if there is a simple problem which I want to solve, which is having a cantilever, for example, and I want to have the deflection of this cantilever, then I do have a formula like, let me see here. Okay, so I can have a formula like WL cube by 3EI, and which can give me the answer. Now this can be done by a analytical method and at the same time with FEA. Now the main difference what we have is, when we are doing the analytical method, we are mainly interested into the fixed point and the point of application of force, but whatever happening in between, we do not know much. Or in the pipe stress analysis software, okay, when you apply a force, say node number 10 and 20, I don't take any name of the software, you know all the softwares. Now what happens that I get the displacement of say minus 10 mm, okay, and here I get the displacement as 0. So it means if I want to draw a line, it would come like this. But in reality, the deflection could be like this. So I do not know what is happening in between, and this is called as a shape function. So if I don't know the shape function, then I don't know what is happening in between, and here the FEA helps you by putting it to the various or thousands or hundreds of elements. So definitely we are not going to discuss deep in what is FEA. This is not the class of that. It's mainly the class of case studies wherein you are interested in. So today not only FEA, we are going to even talk about CFD. Most of us do take them all same. Definitely both are numerical methods, but it has got some differences. So they are the one wherein the simulation of any given physical phenomena using numerical techniques. So they actually simulate what is going to happen or what will happen at different points. Now when you go with the element method like FEA method, it uses the element method to solve with the understanding that the volume is constant. And when you go for a CFD, it uses the volume method. For FEA, you deal with elastic modulus thicknesses, thermal expansions, etc. Wherein for CFD, you are more interested into the velocity of the fluid, the pressure variations, the viscosities, the densities, all those matter. So today main focus is on the FEA, even though we are going to discuss little bit of CFD case studies as well. Now the calculations are made for every single element, and then it is combined. So what we do is that we try to break out the problem into finite objects, and then we try to merge them. And why we do so? Because just now you have seen that the shape functions, we don't know what is happening in between, but by making the problem as a discrete problem, we use some elements and we know everything about the elements. So if the problem is splitted into elements, the answer for any irregular geometry, like not a pipe, a hexagon or even a random shape, becomes easy. So why we are performing the FEA and CFD is the conventional software, the software what we and you use. They are sometimes, provide the conservative answer. So every time when you do not know anything, for example, I don't know the stress intensification factor for 45° T section. Somebody tells me you take 90° T SIF and multiply it by 2.5 without any base. So we as a stress engineer hear from here and there, we listen to our seniors some emails and all, and we straight away say it is 2.5 without a base. The conservative approach may not be the right all the time. For example, there is a two-phase flow. Two-phase flow means consider as a slug, go with rho into A into V square, get tremendous amount of load, check the, make the natural frequency as 5 Hz and go ahead. So every time stress engineer goes with the conservative approach, which may not be the right, and here the FE or CFD brings the reality. Now, the very important thing is the investment in design can save the cost of over design and can ensure the safe design. So one of the resistance to the FEA is it's costly, and that is the reason the companies do not want to go for it. But that's not true nowadays, because in FE there are so many competitors for the software purpose, and we can get the solution which are in optimum cost. The versatility in the analysis using beam or shell or solid elements, so it's a choice of yours. The recognized softwares are, they deliver the best convergence and solve the critical industry problems for which we are actually interested in. Now let's take one of the common problem. Now generally you deal with the forces and moments on the a cylindrical shell. Now this is a rectangular shape, and this small nozzle is having a problem of forces and moment. Now just let me know whether this problem falls under which kind of category, like static, dynamic, linear, nonlinear, what kind of category it is. Just let me know the answers in chat box. See, since it is having the forces and moments on it, this is very important. As a stress engineer, let's not be only an engineer who knows a particular software and do the software entry. Always ask a simple question to yourself: if somebody takes away the software from my hands, will I be able to give the solution? That's the simple answer. So this kind of problem is a simple steady state analysis. Now nothing is changing with respect to time, and that is our assumption. Okay, so now in FEA language we call it as an implicit analysis. So the state of the system is the same for different time intervals. It means it's not changing. For example, internal pressure analysis, the pressure is given, it is steady for all the time. So what are the longitudinal stresses, what are the hoop stresses? So these problems are called as implicit. Now these kind of words you will listen from the mouth of FEA engineer quite often. And as a stress engineer, if you are dealing with a FEA engineer, you should know this. This is another problem. If you see this problem, it's a flange. There are two flanges, plate type, and left hand side it's a blue color and right hand side it's a green color. And we are going to take this as a case study as well. Now it's a bolt pretension. So it means that initially there is a tension in the bolt. So it's a commissioning stage, I would say. Now the pressure comes in. Now when the pressure comes in, the flanges would like to go apart, away from each other. Now here we have two time intervals. One is the pretension, and second is the pressure is acting. Somebody wants to check both of them. Simplest way in our stress analysis, kind of a load cases. But we cannot do this kind of analysis in our software, and this is called as a explicit. The state of the system varies with time interval, and that is what we call as a time state analysis. The variable time state is in crucial factor. Now the duration of the analysis is defined by the time and the step. Example is seismic analysis or this kind of bolt pretension. Now in seismic analysis, what we called it as a dynamic analysis or a time history analysis or response spectrum analysis more precisely. So these kind of analysis fall under the explicit. This is one more thing wherein, say for example, some forces and moments I want to study, a junction I want to study. Now if my stresses are within the stress strength curve yield strength value, I am below yield strength, then this is called as a linear analysis. So all your primary stresses, for example weight and pressure driven stresses, the allowable limit, all of you know, it is minimum of 1/3 of ultimate or 2/3 of yield. So the code is not allowing you to cross the yield strength. But when it comes to a problem of a secondary stress, for example thermal stress or temperature driven stress, the code allows you, I am talking about a code 31.3 or section at division 2 or section at division 1, they allow you to cross the yield strength limit as well. because those kind of stresses are self-limiting one, and in that case you can cross the yield strength. Now when you are not allowed to cross the yield strength, then the approach becomes a linear analysis approach. So the forces and the displacements have a linear behavior. Hooke's law is valid. This kind of problems, they fall under the linear analysis. And when it goes the beyond yield stress, for example, this picture what is being shown on the screen, therein you can see at the bottom a hexagon kind of stuff, and there is some blue color and red color or yellow color highlighting. This is nothing but a cross section of a flange wherein a gasket present and the gasket deformation is being analyzed. Now all of us know that when the gasket is compressed, it is sometimes can go beyond the yield value as well, and if it goes beyond that, there could be a permanent deformation which can even cause a leak. If you want to analyze such a kind of problem, then it falls under the non-linear. The analysis where the deformations are not linear with respect to the forces, it falls under the non-linear. So even the non-metallic gaskets or non-metallic things can also go into a non-linear analysis. So as a stress engineer, we should know. Now one more question. Now we are using this software. Do you know which kind of element is being used inside the software? Can I get the answer in chat section? So for normal softwares wherein we come across this all pipe stress analysis, we go with the beam element. Okay. Now when you go to the beam element is very good when the diameter is not much changing, the thickness is not much changing, but the length is changing a lot. Okay. So at that time we are more interested into a beam element software. Now these beam element software, they cannot analyze the shell. So now even if you can see a 3D good pipe in your software, a nice pipe which is having a good color, blue, gray, it has a shadow effect and everything. So the client thinks as if you are really modeling a complete pipe, but no, you are not modeling a complete pipe. Those who have used this, the versions, very older version of this, at that time the pipe used to be shown as a simple line, the way it is shown here on the 1D element. So when it comes to the FEA analysis, we have got various elements, the 2D elements, the 3D elements, and what is the use of these elements? These elements, for example, if I go with the 1D element, I think we have got a comparison. Now you can see here the comparison of 3 elements. Now it is representing only the dimensions, it means the length. Now when it is giving only the length, the other two aspects, the area or the volume, you are entering, you are not building it. That's why in software you enter diameter and thickness as a property. It is not getting built. So whatever is getting analyzed is assuming that the pipe is a thin dimensionless beam. When you want to analyze a shell of a pressure vessel, or whether you want to analyze a pipe to pipe junction wherein there is a unreinforced T or stub in stub out, then you have to develop the surface. Now just imagine that you have got the playing cards in your hand, and you are taking one card each and pasting on the pipe and forming a pipe. That is a 2D element. Each playing card is having an area but a negligible thickness. So it cannot do any analysis accurately across the thickness. Okay. So that is the 2D shell element. And if you have, just imagine that you have a brick in your hand and you are building a pipe as a brick by brick, as if you are building a cement pipe, then the brick in your hand is a 3D solid element. So you know everything about that brick, so that you can give the most accurate results, right? Now the computational time and accuracy, definitely the 1D element are very fast, but they are less accurate across the area and thickness. The 2D are little bit more accurate, and the 3D are the highest accuracy. Now when to apply, we have seen that if you want to calculate the bending moments, the bending stresses, then the good is the 1D element. If you want to have the ovalization problem analysis or stress concentration, then you have to go for a 2D shape. And if you want to check the irregular shapes like the stress in the bolts or some linearization problems or stress intensification factor across the thickness, then you have to go with the 3D solid element. Complex geometries you can't do with 1D. You can't build a bolt with 1D. Even you can't build a bolt with 2D perhaps. Then you have to go with the 3D. Now the real heart of our today's seminar, and wherein my colleagues will be popping in, I will be explaining the problem and they will be telling you how the FEA is done. Now this is our first case study. This is a classic example of our duct piping, which is done in a beam element based software which all of us use, Caesar 2. Now it is, let me tell you, it is not the limitation of Caesar 2 or Roher or Autopipe or K-pipe. It's not like this. The software are used or they are defined or written to solve a beam element problem. Okay. So if you want to solve a 3D element problem, you can't use this software. So it's not the problem in software. It's a problem in us that we may use a wrong software for wrong application. So people do ask me, can I use Caesar for duct analysis? My answer is very simple. Yes, you can use, but you cannot calculate the accurate SIF. You cannot do the buckling analysis using Caesar. So the other aspect, you have to use the other software. But if you want to do a simple bending calculation, weight calculation, thermal expansion, yes, you can very well use Caesar. So in this case, our case study was, or our scope of work was, to calculate the stress intensification factor. All of us, we know that Appendix D of 31.3 says that if the D by T ratio crosses 100, then the formula given are not accurate, or you can go for a better method or alternative method. And how to calculate the SIF? Now people even talk about 31J, which has come very newly. Now I don't know how many of you have actually read 31J, and it's a thin book for probably a couple of 100 pages or even less than that. So now when you want to do a FEA analysis, you have to refer ASME section at division 2, which tells you the SIF definition as range of peak stress. Now when I say range, it is on upper yield and lower yield side, and that's why in the denominator there is a 2 present. 2 into moment by section modulus, which is nothing but a nominal bending stress at that point. If you see the next equation, which is PL plus PB plus Q plus F, now this nomenclature a stress engineer must know. It is even used in WRC, like the primary stresses or longitudinal stresses, the bending stresses, the secondary stresses, and the last portion is F, which is nothing but a peak stress. Now the peak stress cannot be calculated by hand calculations, therein you need the software. So this was our case study for 16-inch duct assembly. Diameter was 1540, the thickness was 8 mm. Now look at the temperature, 700 degrees Celsius. Okay, it was an excursion temperature, a small time temperature. A normal design was 360. So when you are doing such a high temperature analysis, you come across so many problems, and you should know the code in depth. So we did the saddle analysis, the FE analysis, the lug supports in FEA. You can even see in the figure there are some stiffeners which are being modeled. Now why I need stiffener? Because I want to take care of the buckling. Now the stress engineer shall not forget the buckling. So Ninad or Amit, would you like to add something onto it? How we have done the analysis? Because I would even like to introduce to my team.
Yes, actually here we are looking two images, the left one and the right one. The left one side we can see more stiffener rings are provided as compared to the right one image. So we can see the difference between the stress level when we put a larger stiffness ring then the stress level is almost up to 196 MPa. But when we reduce the stiffeners, the stress level is almost 250 MPa. That is the use of finite element software, because we cannot model these stiffener rings and evaluate the effect of stiffener rings in a beam element software. Further on the top, we can see the mitre bend. So this is the mitre bend in which the d by t ratio is greater than 100. So as per the 31.3 or 31.3 appendix T, there are limitations, and to calculate the stress intensification factor, we need to use the finite element analysis approach as per the ASL section 8 division 2.
Now look at the saddles. Okay, now we also did the saddle analysis, and sometimes what happens, you may have to give a additional web in between, or sometimes you may have to eliminate the web, because web sometimes can stop your radial growth and you may get the local stresses or local failures. These failures may not happen very immediately at site because they are secondary of the nature, and in such cases we may have to do FEA. Even the TSF, the stress intensification for T. One of the misunderstanding regarding the FEA software is that when you do FEA, the SIF always decreases. That is one of the misunderstanding. Means when you find any failure in your beam element software for any kind of say 24 inch by 6 inch branch, then always people say that do FEA and qualify it. But that's not the case always. Especially we realize when we did the duct SIF, sometimes 31.3 SIF are lower and FEA SIF are twice of that or thrice of that. Okay, so we have to come out of this approach or understanding or belief that FEA always solves all the problem. It solves, but it will give the realistic answers. Now if you see this duct, there is a flange pair, and this flange pair has got two different temperatures. The left hand side temperature was different, the right hand side was different, and this flange even can be analyzed in a software called, say, wherein you do the pressure vessel analysis. Now the flange thickness, what we got, you can see on the left bottom, the flange thickness was 112. So what was our objective? Our objective was to make this flange thickness as minimum as possible. So we made it 40 mm thick flange. But to compensate that, we have put the stiffeners all along. So you can see here the stiffeners all along. And when you put the stiffener, you cannot design the flange as per section 8 division 1 method. Then it calls for the FEA. And when it calls for the FEA, the client will be definitely asking you whether the flange will leak or not. So in this kind of analysis, what we have seen, the explicit one, the earlier one, we have simulated first the bolt pretension and then the pressure into it, and at the same time, in this case, since there is a temperature change, so both the flanges may have the different temperature, there could be difference of radial growth. Even the material of the left hand side and the right hand side flange were different. So there could be a difference of radial growth. So we had even suggested the groove across the bolt, wherein the bolt can radially move freely. And then we wanted to check whether the flange leaks or not. So for that, we checked the seating stress, whether the gasket is seating or not. So these kind of analysis, when it comes, the FEA is very much useful. So you can see very clearly here, the red color shows the 700 temperature and the blue color shows the 425. So in this case, if you go with the stresses, then the stresses can go beyond the limit. And at that time, you have to take help of strain based analysis. So very few engineers do know that there is a strain based analysis as well, and which can be used, and even code allows it. So I'll be showing you one of the slide afterwards, wherein there was some strain limitations given. So instead of checking the stress, we check the strain, and it is allowed for the secondary stresses, not for the primary. So all these aspects we have to study. So stress analysis is not only data entry and data out. This is one more case study we did. It is a assembly inside the heater, okay, and wherein so many punctures were given to one common header. So the entire analysis was done in beam element software, the software what we use, Roher, Caesar, Autopipe, K-pipe. But there are some provisions given, or rather than the restrictions given in ASME code, that when the punctures are very close to each other in the close vicinity, you cannot use the normal SIF what we have. So you can't just give the SIF at each and every point and get rid of it. It's not allowed. So for that the FEA is required. So we have done, so the boundary conditions were taken by the beam element software. Boundary condition means the rotations and the displacements, and the forces and moments as well, and local stresses were checked. So don't be under impression in the FEA software you should able to model the entire duct assembly or entire heater coil. That will take millions and millions of nodes. So the FEA shall be used at local problems, and we had used the 3D solid element, this kind of thing. Now here you can see when the stresses are crossing the limit, there is something called as linearization what we have to do. Okay, so linearization tells you when you get a peak stress, because something comes red in FEA, and that is the reason why stress engineers do afraid even to check the FEA report, because they don't know what to check. And even by having this seminar or by having the FEA training or learning, at least even if you able to check the FEA report, that is also good achievement. Even if you add in your CV that I can check FEA report, that's a good thing. Now the standard FEA training what you get in various institutes after the college, they only talk about the FEA as a software. But when we teach FEA, we talk about the oil and gas industry exclusive codes and standards. That's why this seminar is to have the awareness. So FEA is very widely used in automobile industry or defense industry, where the shapes are random, but very negligibly used in our industry, and that's why we are not aware of these terminologies as well. So when I do the linearization, what I do is that, which is exactly the answer is same. If I ask you a question, why in 31.3 we check primary stress separately, secondary stress separately, and occasional stress separately, why don't we combine them and check? Why we have a different load cases? The simplest answer is, if I get a failure, how I would come to know if I combine all the cases, whether it is because of a pressure or weight, whether it is because of temperature, or whether it is because of earthquake, because all of them have different mode of failure. So typically when you are doing a FEA analysis, you apply or impose all kind of loadings, and then when the peak stress comes, you should able to know what kind of stress it is, and when which kind of stress is allowed to cross yield, which kind of stress is allowed to go 2 times of yield, which kind of stress is allowed 3 times of yield. So there are provisions in code, and that we check. Now this is a multi-phase analysis what we have done. So I just would like to ask Nina, can you just explain this case study?
Yes. Hello. This is a 45-meter line, and initially crude oil was passing in this line. So that was a single primary medium, and natural gas was introduced in this line. So these are the boundary conditions used in the FEA analysis. So this is a fluid structure interface analysis that we did in FEA and CFD. And first we did this analysis in CFD, computational fluid dynamics solver, and we later mapped those CFD results into the FEA solver, so that we can get the actual exact forces and pressure at the node points, and we can map those into the FEA solver. So please move on to the next slide. So as highlighted, you can see the red is the crude oil and the circle part is the pockets of natural gas. So in this particular case study, what happens is when the inlet velocity of the crude oil was 40 meters per second, but when it is single phase velocity, we are getting a velocity of 45 meters per second. That is the highest velocity that we are getting in throughout the line. But during two-phase analysis, the velocity was 75 meters per second. Now what happens in such kind of analysis is the liquid phase, that is the crude oil, tries to capture the gaseous phase until the velocity increases and the kinetic energy of that medium increases. So there are induced forces because of this action, and the kinetic energy of that system increases. Now the main parameter for fluid induced vibrations is the kinetic energy that can be caused because of closing of valve or opening of valve or obstructions or multi-phase flow. So this is one of the applications where two-phase flow causes induced vibrations in this system. So moving on to the next slide, please. So this is the allowable limit that you have for the particular material. So the allowable limit in this case was 115 MPa, and we carried out harmonic analysis, that is lower frequency analysis, and from that lower frequency analysis we saw the stresses at 1 Hz, 4 Hz, 7 Hz and 16 Hz, and we had few support conditions or support locations throughout the pipeline, that the pipe was supported at 8 locations, 10 locations and 12 locations. So from this table we can find that when the support assembly is supported at 8 locations, the stresses are around 225 MPa for the 16 Hz frequency, and during 12 support locations the stresses are quite within the range. And when it comes to civil applications, there were few constraints while applying supports, and that is the reason. So you can see the blue region, this is the support conditions that you have in the system, and initially 8 supports were provided, and later the supports were then increased and 12 supports were provided for the system. It was necessary, and this was carried out using fluid induced vibrations phenomena. The methodologies for FSI, the form of FSI is fluid structure interface.
Nina, I'm just interrupting. Can you see the video on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Now you continue.
So this is from two-phase analysis. So this video depicts two-phase analysis. So you can see the movement of liquid and gas throughout the line. And so in such kind of applications, during bends, there are forces which act on the bends due to the flow, and we need to restrict those forces and constrain those forces. But number of supports increases the costing in the system, and that's why we need to provide such kind of similar.
Okay, good. So here are 2-3 things what Ninad is trying to tell. So those who have just joined, Ninad has told one thing wherein there is a change of velocities because of the phase changes which can happen, which as a stress engineer sometimes we do not know, and even our process people, we don't have that much close interaction with them. So they just give us the pressure, temperature and everything. So my personal opinion is even the stress engineer should know the flow region, and that's the reason we have started doing the surge and all these kind of things, wherein we try to superimpose both the aspects, the surge, the fluid and the structure. Yeah. Okay, Nina, go ahead. Okay, so I go to,
From
can I
this-
go to the next case study? This one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, Now, this is interesting one. Injection quill is very common for us, wherein what we do is we have got a header and we are injecting something. Now, this is being supplied by a manufacturer or a fabricator. So the simple question what the consultant they did ask, since there is a change of pressure and the temperature, means the pressure inside the header and the pressure inside the injection quill are different. Okay, so will there be any thermal shock? Okay, because there could be a sudden change of pressure, and at the same time will there be any vibrations? So this was a case study what we did. Nina, can you explain, or Amit, on this case study further?
There were 4 different mediums that were passing in the line. There were 2 different mediums from the header line and 2 different mediums from the quill side. So there were altogether 4 different fluids that were passing in this medium. Now, due to the geometric constraint, there were turbulences created when the fluid moved out of the quill region, and the quill experienced a thrust because of the fluid flowing through the quill. And at different points when the fluid passes through the quill, there were pressure differences and turbulences that was created. As I earlier mentioned, that these turbulences causes induced pressure in the line, and we had to check what are the induced forces because of the turbulence caused in this particular domain or region. So in this particular slide, you can see that there is a pressure drop at 0.25 seconds. So this is a transient analysis that we conducted for that fraction period of time, and it was 0.53 kg per centimeter square. And this was as a this was set as a benchmark for the process industry, so they could take this value and move forward.
Sorry to interrupt, Nina. See here, what was the problem? The problem was they even wanted to know, the process people, what is the pressure drop across the quill, because there is a sudden change of flow, or the two flows are mixing in each other, and both were two phase, means liquid and gas. So their pressure drops were enormously some absurd values, and they were worried about it. And when we did this analysis, and when we got this pressure drops to be in a good limit, I mean, this is the actual scenario, then they realized some of the errors or assumptions in their analysis.
So you can see the velocity
And
counters,
then they
phase,
further
the middle
took it
image
as
is
a
the phase
benchmark.
analysis,
What
where
it
you
is
can see
trying to
one
do.
of the phases.
The process engineer took this calculation as a benchmark to
Yeah, phase
calculate the
analysis.
pressure
So
drop
red
for
is the
the other
one of the
points.
phases, and
Okay,
blue is the another phase. And at the quill section, you can see the mixing of the fluids. Okay. And the right hand side image is the pressure drop calculation that we Gaurav sir
Yeah,
discussed.
means, where the pressure drop is actually taking care. And now, because of the thrust force, we even did suggest some additional ring kind of guide supports for the quill, so that the stresses within the quill shall be within the limit. And you can see this is the superimposition of the flow onto the structure. So can you explain FSI a bit, Nina?
Yes, this is the basic FSI that we have done. There are two more types, two-way FSI and three-way FSI. So what happens is, when you apply, for example, if you want to apply forces or induced forces in any piping software, you use empirical relations like 1.2 times of force or 2 times of forces in the piping system. So when you do CFD and you use FSI analysis, you use the actual forces and pressure that you get at that particular node, and you superimpose that value onto the FEA solver, like the piping system, the flange or the quill. So the image on the top shows you the FEA boundary condition, that you have the imposed load, the fixed supports and the forces and moments that are applied because of the external forces. And the bottom image shows the imported load that is applied because of the CFD solver. So first you have to perform the CFD analysis, and then you need to map the FEA results into the the CFD results into the FEA solver.
Yes. Now look at 2-3 words which Ninad said. FSI, that is fluid structure interaction. This is what we generally don't do in a normal stress analysis scenario. We consider fluid as a density, as a weight, and which is steady state. But not a single, very rarely you will find that the pipe is always completely filled with the water or any liquid. There are always gaps over there. At the same time, what we do, if you want to take any force because of the fluid, it is a static force acting on the bend, that's it. But here the advantage is, since the geometrical model is same for FEA and the CFD, the geometrical model is same, you can superimpose the results of CFD, means real-time forces, at particular location onto a FEA model to understand the stresses developed because of the forces, and that gives you the realistic results. So we do not go much about the unrealistic kind of analysis. So I am showing a video, so I hope if you can't see that, then let me know. So these are the 4 phases. Nina, can you explain on this these 4 figures, because we should understand?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the nomenclature is that the red is one of the phase and the blue is the second phase. So the bottom 2 images are the fluid flowing in the header region, and the top is the fluid flowing in the quill region. Okay, so as you can see, the upper chamber is the gas chamber and the lower chamber is the liquid chamber in the header part. Similarly, during the inlet at the quill side, the top chamber is the gas chamber and the lower chamber is the liquid part. So after the simulation, the fluid of both of the inlet mix at the outlet, and there is turbulence created, and because of these turbulence there are higher forces, and that's why we need to map these actual forces that we get from the CFD to the FEA solver.
Yeah, and even since we know this, we can even do the live, like a fatigue analysis for this quill, which can tell you that how many years it can survive, or how many cycles it can survive. So this is important. So this was a
Sir,
yeah.
1 second. Can you go on the top slide? Previous one. Yes, previous one. Yes, here. Just top slide. Yeah. Just go next slide. Next slide, please. Next one. Yeah. Yes. Here. Here we can see that we have performed CFD and FEA analysis, but here we have performed Caesar 2 analysis as well. Those, yes, because the one who is working in oil and gas industry, if he knows only FEA, it's fine. But if he knows Caesar as well, that is the advantage. And if he knows only Caesar,
they all know
yeah,
Caesar, but
yeah.
if they know FEA, that is the advantage.
No FEA, yeah, exactly. That is
right. So these boundary conditions were used further up into the Caesar analysis to check whether the things are okay or not. And these are few additional things wherein you can see the deflections, or even we did the vibrations for this. That was also being checked. What are the frequencies near to the junctions and all. So these kind of results can be obtained. As I was talking about the strain-based analysis earlier one, here is the section at Division 1 code, which talks about the strain limits. Okay, so if you are having a carbon low alloy steels, then 0.2% of the permanent strain is allowed. So there are other references as well, but we should know these references and where to use it and in what way. Now this is for those who are from mechanical static side who have joined us. This vessel it looks a very normal vessel, but on the right hand side there is a boot, and after the boot there is a saddle. So earlier this saddle, which is on the right hand side, was on the left hand side of the boot, and it was very close to the first saddle, and the boot was a cantilever one. but then the client said it's not possible or it's not recommended, and they shifted the saddle beyond the boot. But because of the space constraint, the saddle was very close to the boot, and then what they did, certain part of the saddle, so they increase the local thickness by adding a dollar plate. Means the pressure vessel shell is been given a higher thickness at local area. You can see here a small white line, and partial saddle was on this dollar plate and partial was not. When this kind of thing comes, code does not give you a direct solution or direct guidelines, and then it calls for the FEA analysis. And here we learned lot many things. Though the problem looks very simple, we learned lot many things, like how the pressure can show the failure or the stress concentrations at the junctions. Amit or Dinat, can you share the experiences what we learned in this specific case study?
So after we did the FE analysis, we found that there were bending forces introduced because there were internal pressure we had applied on the boot region, and because of that the boot was slightly shifted towards the downward part, and the saddle being very close to it, we found higher stresses. You can see a max point over here. So there were higher stresses induced in this web plate. There was also a center web plate which is not shown in this image, but after analysis, yes, right. So after analysis, we had to remove it. Yes, so we had to remove it because there were higher stresses induced in that web plate, and we had to do linearization at the shell region, the boot region, and at the web plate of the saddle to check for the primary membrane stress and the stresses produced due to bending, and then qualified with respect to the ASME standard.
And there was a thrust because of the boot as well. So because of the pressure, you can see the pressure thrust. It's very small video of 1 second.
So you can keep on repeat.
I don't know where it is a repeat.
Keep on repeating.
Toggle. I don't know where it is a repeat. So these analysis, it was very small work, but we learned a lot.
The one more thing that I want to add is the thickness of the dollar plate was approximately 60 to 90 mm in different tags, but when it comes to the boot, the thickness was 50 mm. So as per the different conventional softwares with respect to internal pressure calculations, it was qualifying, but as per this particular application, because of the thrust force, we were getting higher results at the junction and at the saddle part.
Okay. Amit, can you just explain the different kind of stress limits?
Yes. Here, this is a table provided in ASME section at Division 2. As discussed earlier, there are various kind of stresses. Generally, there are basically two types of stresses: the primary stresses and the secondary stresses. Generally, the primary stresses, we classify it as a general primary membrane stress, a local membrane stress, and a bending stress. For example, the stresses due to the pressure comes under the primary stresses. Due to the pressure, the membrane stresses are developed. Membrane stresses like hoop stress or longitudinal stress, which develops across the thickness of a cross section under consideration. These are the general primary membrane stress. However, here the word local membrane stress. Local means whenever there is a discontinuity in the structure, like in the previous slide, we have seen that there is a boot nozzle connected to the vessel. In that local region, we can see the maximum stresses. So whatever the membrane stresses develop at the local junctions, these are called as the local membrane stresses. Further, there is a bending stress due to the pressure. Bending stresses are also generated, and further there is a secondary stresses which comes due to the thermal effects, like the external forces and movements on the nozzle due to the connected piping. So here there are various limits of this. Yeah, there are various limits of these loads combinations and the allowable limits. Like for general membrane, we can go up to the allowable up to the particular for that particular temperature. Further, here we can see that the local membrane stress PL. Here the allowable limit for PL is SPL. Here the SPL is generally the yield strength or 1.5 times of the allowable, whichever is the maximum. So earlier we discussed that the few codes like 31.3 or other codes are not allowing us to go beyond the yield limit. But here we can see that for the local membrane stress, we can go up to the yield limit. Like for PL, we can go up to the SPL, and for PL plus PB, we can also go up to the SPL. And for other load combination like PL plus PB plus Q, we can go more above than the yield limit of that particular material.
I would like to add one thing. See, when you are doing a pipe stress analysis 31.3, always the bending, the bending stress generally, because of the weight, okay, it comes as a primary. But in this code, you can even have the bending stress. It can be a part of primary as well, or it could be a part of a secondary as well. So user should know which part falls under primary and which part falls under secondary. This is the same limit SH, that is 2/3 of yield or 1/3 of ultimate, minimum of that. And based on that, based on the combinations, you can go at various limits. And user should know for which kind of loading, which kind of equation to be used. Otherwise, sometimes even after doing FA, you get the failure, and those failures are not to be checked by the code, or they are not the way it should be checked. So you need a proper guidance for that. And this is the gap of information or knowledge, what you can say, we are trying to fill up by taking in our training sessions the actual real life case studies, and to make you do this and to understand this. So these are the lines of SCL, that is stress concentration levels, right, Amit? Classification line, sorry. So it is a stress classification line which tells you, so C stands for classification, will tells you whether it's a primary or secondary, and these are those lines which tells you what kind of stress it is. Then here is the things, the actual results. So which kind of stress is to be used against which kind of allowable. You can see here 2 times of SY is the allowable. Okay. So based on the type of combinations, you can check, and whether it is a safe or not, you can derive. So by doing FEA, you can even save the cost as well. Now this is a pressure fatigue analysis. Now in our softwares, normal pipe stress analysis, people do ask me a question, can we do a fatigue analysis? Then my answer is, my second question comes, which kind of fatigue? Do you want to do a pressure fatigue or a thermal fatigue? So the fatigue analysis, what we have in our pipe stress analysis software, is mainly the thermal fatigue analysis. We are not doing the pressure fatigue. For what happens is, because of pressure, this surface actually can go like this. And this simulation is not possible in our software because we are modeling a pipe as a simple line, and the cross section is the property or characteristic of this element. We are not building it. So if you want to analyze this, then you need to build the pipe as if you are having the playing cards in your hand, and you are keeping the playing cards one in front of each other. And that is the way you should build a pipe, and that is what we call as a meshing, and using a proper element, say shell element. And then you will come to know what is happening across it. If you want a further accurate analysis and the pipe is thick, then you may have to go for a 3D solid as well. So this was a pressure which was having 2 lakh cycles, right? So it's a huge number of a pressure fluctuation, and life was 50 years. This was one of our prestigious project because it was done for a defense kind of industry, and we did the pressure fatigue analysis for it, and for that you have to go with the FEA analysis. So again the same thing, there are fatigue strain reduction factors given in the code. There are various kind of stresses which you should have. So here our intention is we try to teach you a limited part of a code which is required for FEA analysis, and which kind of result of the software to be used where, what value I should use of the result. So any random value cannot be used. So I need to check what value I should use for the analysis. Now this is a multi-phase flow analysis which is very important. Here what had happened, the process engineer used a software called, and he got the result as intermittent. Means the phase of the liquid is intermittent. Now when it comes to the phase as an intermittent, what we do, they call it as a two-phase, or furthermore they call it as a slug. And if the slug comes into picture, what happens? It is rho a v square is the force. Now look at the line size, 24. For a 24-inch area will be very high. Density, if you see this, definitely as a stress engineer, if there are two densities given, you will be taking the maximum one. For example, here you can see the density of the liquid is 657. The density of the gas will be negligible. But what you will do, you will be putting a 657 density here, the area of 24-inch and the velocity, and you get a force. Since you are doing a static analysis, you are going to multiply by 2. You will be getting tons of loading for which you will be designing the structure. So civil engineer is going to cry. Even your primary supports, which will be having axial stop or so, such a huge force. Now whether it is realistic or not, that's the question, and therein you should use the FEA or CFD. Now in this section we had got 10% of the fluid, and near about the 10% was liquid and remaining 90% was the gas. Oh, am I saying correct? Oh yeah. So it was 10 to 90 ratio. So when we did the analysis, okay, what we found, that the type of flow what we are getting is a churn flow. It's not a slug. So we are not getting a slug into it, we are getting a churn flow into it. Okay, and that's why the requirement of such an amount of heavy force is not required. I think Nina, we have an animation for this as well, no? Okay, so this was that animation, sorry. So in this case you can see there are very less pockets of blue colors which are the liquid one. The most of them are red, and they all were representing the gas. So we had given them a verdict that you need not consider as a slug. You can maintain the natural frequency if you wish as a 4 Hz as a precautionary level, but the support need not be designed for such a high value, and that can save a cost a lot. Now this is a pure CFD application wherein we had a duct of a air conditioning system. So initially the duct entries were straight like this. So initially the duct entries were straight like this, but after the analysis we even suggested them that it should go in some direction. At the same time we even did show them that this is the area wherein there is a, what you can say, redundant area, nothing is happening, so there is a considerable pressure drop. So you can chamfer this, you can straight away eliminate this part, and you can have the inlet from here, and the flow will be laminar, and they wanted to check the pressure drop. So I'll show you so these are the different regimes which tells you the velocities, whether they are crossing the limits or not. and afterwards they wanted to know what is happening when there is a reduction in area, whether they are getting the sufficient pressure drop or not, or they are getting the sufficient pressure or not, and the velocities or not. So and then these results they again use as a benchmark results for their calculations, and they did the remaining calculations. So you can see these particles are showing the flow. You can even see at the corners the particles are not moving. So that those are the redundant areas where the movement is very low, and even it really simulates how the flow of the air so slow happening, and that's why there is a less pressure drop, and how in the laminar way the flow is taking place, and where you are finding some kind of turbulence, and whether you should optimize it further. We already do have our online training on pipe stress analysis, which has been loved by many of the participants. Even the experience level is 10 years, 15 years. They are giving us wonderful reviews, and this all reviews are authentic reviews. You can contact these people. They will be definitely telling you the course is useful. So this is the course which tells you all about the 31.3, all the pipe stress analysis concept, as a stress as a vector, stress as a tensor, how to imagine the stress, what is the stress range, what is the thermal shakedown, what is self-springing, what is real SIF, how to calculate it, what is bellow, how to put the which kind of bellow at what place, how to do the manual calculations for the bellows, how to identify the real forces, how to design the spring manually, so many, and the case studies as well. So it's a 20 module course which has been loved by people, so you can just Google it. And now we are coming up with the course which is not the online recorded one yet. The stress analysis course is 20 modules of recorded sessions. You can have it, listen it at any convenient time. But here this course what we are coming up, since it's the ANSYS software, very expensive, we have the license copy of it. It has to be one-to-one at initial stage, and you don't have those softwares with you. So these courses will be a batch of maximum 5. So we are coming up with this course. So Nina, can you just little bit elaborate about the modules what we are going to take?
Yes. So the initial module will be the introduction of the course, where we will be briefing you regarding the course, what is the content of the course. Then we will be telling you about what is finite element method, which is based, a finite element analysis is based on finite element method. And then we'll be briefing you about the 2D sketching. So in this course we will learn the modeling aspect, the meshing aspect, the simulation, and then validation of the results. So after modeling, there is also something called pre-processing, where you need to extract certain domains, you need to subtract or combine certain domains. After that, we will be learning about the material properties and assigning how to assign different material properties to the components. Then different types of elements, where to use these elements, what are the applications in the industry, linear static analysis, and a few examples like SIF calculations, SIF analysis in FEA analysis, then linearization, optimization of supports by adding lug supports, stiffeners. So we'll be teaching you how to model these components, we'll be teaching you how to mesh the components, analyze the components, how to extract the report, extract the images, and to validate the results as per the ASME standards.
Yes, and along with that, how to refer the code and how to refer the values in the code. So all these module 8 to module 12, they are exclusively for oil and gas industry. We are not taking any example of any other industry like a defense or automobile. So we request those who are interested, if your office sponsors you, or if you want to get a self-sponsored course, then please do approach us. because we will be announcing a discount for a limited time offer, which the email will come to you by say Monday, Tuesday. And as I told you, it's a limited people in one batch. We have to have a first come first serve basis, and probably you may have to wait for your turn to come. So accordingly you can register. Anyway, now I would like to put this forum for an open discussion. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask me. We will be answering those questions. Useful, so your feedbacks are encouraging us. So I am very much thankful for all of you joining this session and making it a great success. Even I am thankful to Ninad, Amit for putting the efforts to make the presentation and actually doing study of all these 9 live projects. And I am even thankful to Komal for taking efforts for making the ads, brochures and contacting you. And at the end, thanks to you all. And there will be a feedback form which we will be sending you. So kindly please do fill it so that we come to know where we are going wrong or we need improvement. And those who are interested, do not hesitate to contact us for the FEA training.